At the time when America's love affair with muscle cars was crushed due to the oil crisis, a performance monster was born, the most unlikely of all candidates. Chevrolet Vega is its name. Designed to be a fuel sipper, it became the new darling of gearheads who saw potential beyond its humble four-cylinder powertrain. This is the story of the modified V8 economy car that dominated the game, the Motion Vega. Before we start, keep in mind that there are many more stories like this on our channel, so make sure to take a look, hit that like button, and subscribe. The early 1970s were the dawn of the oil crisis, which radically changed car design in the following decades. Suddenly, all automakers dropped their muscle cars from the offer, famous for their fantastic performance for money proposals. Gas was becoming more expensive, so manufacturers anticipated the market for small economy cars with 4 cylinders. As you may presume, it was the time when the Japanese started conquering North America on a great scale. Americans started building small economy cars as well, and the Vega was one of them. Compact dimensions, Camaro-inspired front-end design, attractive price, and good fuel economy, the Vega had all it takes to perform well in new circumstances caused by the oil crisis. But why would car enthusiasts be attracted to such a small car that had nothing else but 4-cylinder engine options on offer back in the day, with the most powerful one putting in no more than 110 horsepower? Well, there are a few interesting things about it. First of all, it was very light, with the standard version being under 2,200 pounds. Second, it had the desirable layout, with the engine mounted at the front and rear-wheel drive. With that in mind, it didn't surprise that Chevy itself was the first one testing it with the V8. Moreover, GM tried everything. It tried an upgraded inline 4. It even paid $50 million for rotary engine technology. But eventually, it all came down to a good old V8. Chevy made a prototype with an all-aluminum V8, a 283 unit that was later bored out to 302, and upgraded with high-compression pistons, 097 Duntov mechanical lifter camshaft, cast-iron 4-barrel intake manifold, and quadrajet carburetor. With proper shifter work, that car was able to complete a quarter-mile in under 14 seconds. It became clear to the wider masses that there's huge potential to unlock with this small, economy Chevy. The early 70s were still heavily influenced by muscle cars, and 8 cylinders were kind of gold standard. And as Chevy showed no interest in equipping the Vega with something so powerful and compromising the upper lineup, a perfect environment for the aftermarket to bloom was created. Soon enough, Vegas with V8 swaps started popping out all over, and that's mainly thanks to a joint venture of a couple of enthusiasts from New York. More precisely, it was in Baldwin, where the local dealership teamed up with a company called Motion Performance, one of the hottest performance shops in that area, famous for various upgrades on Camaros, Chevelles, and especially Corvettes. So, the way this collaboration worked was that the Baldwin dealer would provide a batch of new Vegas and hand them over to Motion Performance, who would do an engine swap and other modifications, and then get it back to the dealer to sell. Soon enough, this collaboration would evolve into a special line called Baldwin Motion. It was a line of dealer-built speed machines which introduced the upgraded Vega to a wider customer base. The two companies worked out the modus operandi so well that, in later years, the dealer would even offer financing in some cases. The word of mouth was at its shiniest. Soon enough, the wider area became aware of the tuning potential of this small economy car. Orders were flowing in, continually increasing to the scale where this joint venture had no other option but to offer several packages of upgrades. First of all, there was a standard V8 swap, which included one of the most popular GM engines of the time, the good old 350, which would dramatically increase horsepower and speed compared to the stock inline 4. Then, the company came up with the famous Phase 3 package. It was the company's top-tier offering, which further upgrades the engine as well as other parts, which would increase the max output all the way up to 370 horsepower. But for some, even that wasn't enough. They wanted more, so it was time to introduce a variant with the big block V8. So Baldwin Motion came up with 2 new offers with 427 and 454 cubic inch engines, which would increase the maximum output all the way up to 500 horsepower. Along with engine swaps, these upgrades would often include a new M22 Rock Crusher 4-speed manual transmission, one that could actually handle all that power and torque and send all of it to the rear wheels more efficiently. Of course, all that power also required upgrades in terms of suspension and rear axle, including a new 12-bolt rear differential, which would improve the car's ability to handle straight-line acceleration significantly. Suddenly, there was a small economy car able to complete a quarter mile in about 8 to 9 seconds. The Vega turned into a monster. Baldwin Motion showed the world what can be done with a small economy car in terms of performance, but it also showed that things can easily get out of control price-wise. Namely, all these modifications were quite complex, which required extra work hours, which translated to a higher asking price. For example, the big block swap required custom mounts, cutting the bell housing, and a special exhaust system. Then there was forced induction with optional supercharging and turbocharging of the 350 V8, not to mention all those exterior enhancements like larger wheels, side pipes, rear spoilers, and L88 style hoods. All these things would raise expenses to the point where a modified Vega would cost several thousand more than a performance version of the Corvette that came directly off the assembly line. The whole idea of cheap performance was about to be lost, as the high-performance Vega was out of reach for many. So, many aftermarket companies figured out it may be better to offer DIY swap kits, which would simplify the whole process to the point that anyone could upgrade Vegas on their own. These swap kits were created to help overcome the challenges of fitting the V8 engine in such a small engine bay. Engine mounts became an integral part of the swap kit, just like custom headers did, with the purpose of routing the exhaust around the frame and other components. Custom oil pans were included too, while in some cases the V8 swap also involved transmission upgrades. For several reasons, these swaps were not exactly at the same level as Baldwin Motion upgrades. DIYers were limited to small block engines, as big blocks required significant modifications on the engine bay. While prepackaged kits would be focused on the powertrain, Baldwin Motion upgrade would include transmission, suspension, engine cooling, and many other things that would make it significantly more reliable, preventing overheating or premature wear and tear. The difference was substantial, but for many, that Motion Vega would not just be expensive, it would also turn out to be overkill. DIY kits would do the job just fine, and the eventual outcome wouldn't be all that bad. With these kits, the max output would easily go over 250 horsepower, up to 350 in some cases. It wasn't Baldwin Motors level, but it was good enough for many. Most importantly, it was cheaper. The benefits of such an affordable V8 swap kit were numerous. They turned a humble Chevrolet Vega into a performance icon for all those who had a limited budget. The masses got a chance to build their own performance car for a fraction of the cost of other muscle cars of the era, not to mention that the insurance benefits of keeping the Vega classified as a compact car were huge. Quickly enough, several aftermarket companies stepped in to supply DIY kits that would make V8 swaps into Vegas possible. Hooker Headers is one of the first names that comes to mind with their well-engineered and widely available kits. Of course, they were focused on the small block engines, particularly the 350, and included special headers to fit Vega's engine bay along with custom mounts. Then there was Don Hardy Race Cars, a well-known Texas company that offered several V8 swap kits for the Vega. These were quite comprehensive, as they would often include everything from engine mounts to cooling system components. These kits were a perfect choice for more serious enthusiasts who wanted both power and reliability. For those on a very tight budget, Transdapt's kit was the way to go, while Hurst offered a slightly different kit with more focus on transmission components and drag racing in general. So, even though they were never produced on Chevrolet's assembly lines, V8 Vegas were an integral part of the streets in the 70s. Baldwin Motion, along with DIY V8 Vega swap culture, allowed everyday enthusiasts to build some pretty serious performers, keeping the spirit of affordable speed alive in those challenging years. The humble Chevrolet Vega, an economy car designed to sip gas, unexpectedly became a canvas for speed-hungry enthusiasts. While the era may have marked the decline of high-powered V8s, it also sparked a grassroots movement that transformed the Vega into an unlikely performance icon. With the right modifications, this compact Chevy defied its modest origins and kept the spirit of raw, affordable power alive. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.